This is the 18th season of Bass Talk Live. With your host, Matt Pangrath. BTL is brought to you by Lorraine's, Bass Cat Boats, AFCO, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries.
BTL, coming at you!
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. And we are also just days away from having our final Bassmaster Classic qualifier for Tennessee coming up next month. It is the Bassmaster Team Championship taking place. It kicks off tomorrow, actually, on Lake Hartwell. And I got to admit, like when they first kind of did that, you know, there's a lot of talk. We talked to a lot of professional anglers, and some of them are, you know, 5 spots for the Federation or Bass Nation. Now, we'll actually talk a little bit about that today with our guest, but there's some that are all in favor of that, and then you've got the championship, and you've got the college guy, and I'll tell you what, when it first happened, I think that there's maybe a little bit of pushback for the college angler. There wasn't much pushback when they went from 5 to 3 from the Bass Federation Nation to the Bass Nation with the top 3 qualifiers instead of 1 in each of the 5 divisions. But they also added the Team Series champion. And I believe there's a couple guys on the Elite Series who actually competed in that one that made the Classic through the Team Series. But I like it. I like that. They dropped the Bass Nation from 5 to 3 like 6 or 7 years ago. But I like the addition of that top kind of BASS affiliated Team Series champion. Now, the fact that you have to go into a bracket style and possibly beat your buddy to get to the Classic, that might cause some issues around the campfire later on. But interested to see. I think it's almost like 200 teams. You qualify through each of your kind of Bass sanctioned team divisions. Like there's a bunch, I think, like you can get to it through the Nichols Championship and stuff. Just depends on or how it's how each one is sanctioned. But I'm a little jealous because Hartwell is my favorite fishery, and they should be doing what I like them to do on Hartwell. But that is the last kind of major event of the year. They will go into they'll take the top 3 teams, then bracket them out, and then those 6 anglers will compete for the last Bassmaster Classic spot, and then we know everybody who has a chance to win in March in Knoxville. So hard to believe the season is already over. The 2022 season absolutely seemed to fly by. Really cool guest today, Indiana guest, and when you talk about Indiana, I think your first two names that come to mind have to be Jacob Wheeler and Bill Lowen. And then Bill McDONALD has to be up there because, dude, Bill, you've been doing this thing forever, man.
Yeah, sometimes way too long, it appears.
Did I miss like I'm from Illinois, grew up in central Illinois. Got family in Ohio, very familiar with that whole Midwest region. Would you say those are the two, I guess, most accomplished names out of Indiana would be Bill and Jacob?
Yeah, and you got Kobe Krager too, that has done very well. He's transplanted to Florida, but originally from Indiana.
Okay, yeah, he definitely has to be in the list. I missed that. Like I said, I didn't know if there was any old school guys that I was leaving out of the list.
No, I think that's probably it right there.
All right, where are you located in Indiana?
I'm in Greenwood, just south of Indianapolis. I'm just 20 minutes from the stadium, the airport, and all that down there.
I got to be honest, I can't name a single body of water in Indiana, Bill.
Well, we've got 6 fish in Indiana. We all take turns catching. So I understand not knowing any bodies of water there. So it's a tough place to fish.
What are the kind of primary bass fisheries?
Lake Monroe is our biggest lake. It's around 10,000 acres. And then we got the Patoka Reservoir. And then, of course, we got the wonderful Ohio River, and which is a tough fishery. But there are some pretty good little lakes here. We got Geist Reservoir on the north side of Indianapolis. It's a small lake, don't have any big tournaments on it, but it's absolutely full of fish. And then there's some natural lakes up north, Lake Wawasee, and some of those lakes up there.
When they get up north, though, I mean, you got like pike, muskie, smallmouth, and all that in the northern Indiana lakes?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's a fun place to fish.
How far are you guys then? Okay, I'm looking at it right here. So you got a little bit of the Great Lakes. Does anybody jump up there and you can fish Lake Michigan out of Indiana?
Yeah, we got a bunch of guys that fish that Michigan division up there. And, I absolutely love going up there and fishing St. Clair or Lake Erie, either one up there. I mean, the first time I went up, I was really mad. I spent all my life running to Kentucky Lake because it was 300 miles south. And then I found out I could be the same distance north and catch twice as many fish. So
do you have a lot of Ohio River experience?
Oh, yeah, lots of it.
Where do you guys take out of then? Because I'm used to Golconda out of southern Illinois is where I've always taken out of on the Ohio River.
We go out of a place, Cannelton, Rocky Point is that one. Tanner's Creek and Madison are the three pools that they go out of here. Those are the three major ones they go out of.
Any fisheries on the Toyota or FL or Pro Circuit or anything that you fish that are similar to the Ohio River? Like we talked to Bill, and obviously I was like, well, Bill Lowen's really good because he knows how to catch 9 pounds on the Ohio River, and that's why he's a grinder, and that's why he cashes a check at 80% of them. I mean, are you of that same thought process that it makes you a better angler fishing just brutally tough places?
Oh, without a doubt. When you can fish all day waiting for 2 or 3 or 4 bites and stay mentally focused, it definitely helps you. The slugfest are the ones usually that you struggle in.
So what I thought about this on the way. I had a little bit of a drive this morning on the way into the studio, and I thought about. I said I need to do a show on talking to guys on how to catch fish on bodies of water that suck. Like everyone does tough fisheries, tough times of the year. What like a lot of our listeners, there's people on here from Indiana, from Illinois, from Kansas, like. Nothing against them. I'm sure there's fantastic bodies of water there that have it. But there are certain places, and I grew up in central Illinois, so I know it, where there are just not many fish. It sucks. It's bad bass fishing, but it's on your club tournament schedule. I wanted to dive in with someone on when you know that you're on a lake that does not have a high density of quality fish. Like, what are some things you can do to put yourself in the best position to succeed? And I was like, I mean, you would probably be a good guy to talk to about that, wouldn't you, Bill?
Yeah, you just slow down, in my opinion. You pick stuff apart, extra slow. If there's a lay-in log, you might make 10 or 12 flips to it, throw a spinnerbait down at a half a dozen times. And it's amazing on multiple casts like that how you'll actually get a fish to bite occasionally. And, on the Ohio River there, I've won tournaments where 2 fish weigh 7 pounds, and I've won them with 15, 16 pounds. So, I mean, it is a tough fishery. But a lot of times, like I said, you're just looking for 1 or 2 key bites that set you difference.
You typically try to stay closer to the ramp or closer to release areas on bodies of water like that, or are you looking to make long runs, or what's your low? I mean, because fishing slow is, but how do you know if you're around the fish on those bodies of water that suck?
Just history of fishing. We had one tournament one time. We went out of Evansville one time, and I'd never been to Evansville. And so practice day, I only had 1 day to practice. I drove to Golconda and put in practice, drove back to Evansville, went to the meeting that night, draw a guy out. And I said, you want the good news or the bad news? He said, what's the good news? I said, we're going to catch them. He goes, what's the bad news? I said, the first 120 miles I've never seen before. And he goes, no, really, what's the bad news? I said, seriously. We're running to Golconda, and I said there's a lock in between, and there's no gas till we get there. So we went down there. 5 boats of us made that run, and first, second, third, fourth, and fifth all come from down there at Golconda.
Is that Lusk Creek?
Yep, Lusk Creek and Cypress Creek.
I impressed myself there that I remembered that. I spent a lot of time with a black grape, red glitter, Producto paddle tail worm on a 1/4 ounce lead in Lust Creek flipping behind guys in the Assumption Bass Club.
There you go. And it's not what it used to be. I mean, the carp has took its toll there, and that's not the fishery that it used to be, without a doubt.
Major fishery then that you're close to? You said Kentucky's 300 miles away?
Yeah, it takes about 3.5 hours, so 200 miles, 250 miles, something like that.
You have anything that you could have a major derby in Indiana? Any lake that would support it, like a Toyota Series or BPT or even an Open, or is everything just
you could do a
small?
BPT without any problem. You could run, we used to have a lot of tournaments, 150, 175 boats on those lakes on Patoka and Monroe. The bad part of those two lakes is about half the lake is idle zone. So it kind of gives you a whole different mindset on strategy on how you're going to play the game with the idle zones in there. But you could easily run a BPT event on there. And
That thing is
be a
windy.
good strategy.
That's like river.
All river, all flipping, cranking, just power fishing. It's fun.
What do you think made Wheeler so good coming out of Indianapolis? Or do you think that's just God-given ability?
I think it's God-given ability. I mean, I remember Wheeler when he was just a kid. He'd come and run the banks, and people would bring him to a tournament, and he wouldn't fish them, but he'd just run around and ask everybody, and he'd stand on the bank and run up and down and just fish nonstop. And, he was always...
How old was he?
13, 14.
Wait, so he would show up to tournaments, not fish, and then just talk to the guys who were in the tournament, and while the tournament was going on, fish on the bank and wait for you guys to come back and weigh in.
Oh, yeah. And he'd be at all the shows, just asking gazillion questions, and he can take that knowledge and apply it probably as good as anybody can.
Wow, that's interesting. I know I've heard his stories where he said he would show up at the launch ramps with the rod and reel and try to jump in with someone, but I didn't know that he was that ate up with it. What, his folks would just drop him off, or he'd ride his bike down to the lake, I guess.
That, or he'd get, somebody take him down there, just ride along with him and go from there. So like at Lake Monroe right there, I mean, it's can be a phenomenal fishery. I fished a seniors tournament with one of the guys that's fishing the Federation Nationals right now. And we fished it in August and weighed in 22, almost 23 pounds.
Largemouth.
All largemouth. And I mean, I've won there with 32 pounds. I've won there with, 12, 14 pounds. But it is a phenomenal fishery for catching some big fish.
John Stewart, who knows a thing or two about the Bass Nation, commented Terry McWilliams, 4th place finish in the Classic. Was he an Indiana guy as well?
Oh, yeah. Terry and I used to fish team tournaments. And actually, his nephew is down there now at Hartwell fishing with Matt McCoy, which is he fished a Classic a few years ago, Shreveport, Louisiana, qualified through the Federation.
It's amazing how talented some of those anglers at the grassroots and regional level are, that everyone knows regionally, and then, they'll make a Classic or a Cup or something like that, and everyone will be like, yeah, that dude is like legit, but you've never heard of them, on a national level.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of guys from Indiana, actually, through your Mark Doves qualified for the Classic a couple times.
Yeah.
You got Gary Hardwick years ago qualified. Chris Myers qualified for the Classic. I know I'm missing some guys, but we've had quite a few fishermen from Indiana make the Classic through the Federation.
You were telling me before that at one point the Federation Nation for Indiana was the largest grassroots federation state in the country?
Yes, sir. Without a doubt. I mean, and it's funny, we got the biggest federation with the least amount of water. So, I mean, fishing here was competitive as competitive can be.
And Mark Dove made 2 Classics, 97 and 2000. No, he made 3 Classics.
Is it 3? I knew he made 2. I didn't know for sure 3.
Yeah, he made the 90. I knew I'd known that name. 97 Classic, the 2013 Classic, and the 2014 Classic. So he's fished 7 events with bass, like that are on the profile, and 3 of them are Bassmaster Classics.
Yeah, and he's still fishing today. He's still very competitive.
Do you think that the part of the reason why there are so many of these good anglers is because of the success of that Federation Nation?
I think the success of the Federation Nation, too, being a tough fisheries here, because a lot of those qualifying events are in the fall when some of that fishing is, very, very tough out there.
What happened with that? Were you do you remember when that split happened, when it went from the Federation Nation to the Bass Nation and the TBF?
I remember when it was going on, I was out of the club fishing by that time. And, I just remember it's just a huge downfall. And I mean, there's still effects from it. I mean, it's just never rebounded, in my opinion, to the way that, it used to be or probably will ever be again.
I guess for those who don't know, the way I explained, I want to say it was the 90s, mid 90s, late 90s, somewhere around there.
Probably late 90s. It was right when the MLF come on really, really strong. And they decided they wanted a piece of the pie too. And then there was just a huge split and everything.
And then a lot of clubs fractured at that point, and some went over, and it would be the TBF, which was the Bass Federation, and then some stayed with the Federation Nation on Bass, but it had just been the Grassroots Federation Nation on Bass. That's what Kirchhoff came up through. Sure. The Wrangler Angler, the Nationals, Iaconelli came up through that. But then the TBF was a path to the FLW Tour, the All-American, and the Forest Wood Cup, or the FLW Cup. At that time, and it kind of stayed splintered. It was like right when I was kind of getting involved into it. I know all that was happening, and I was just like a kid because they let me join the club when I was like 14, and I didn't know any of that political stuff that was going on.
Yeah, the political stuff always screws everything up without a doubt. So I wish everybody could just go fishing, have fun, and stay out of politics on it. But like I said, it split things. It split sales. It split a lot of different things in the boating world as well.
Oh, yeah, different boat brands, manufacturers, sponsors that then had to make a decision on that as well. John Stewart said 2004 through 2006. Yeah, early 2000s.
I just remember when it happened. Dates aren't real good in my memory anymore. I've had too many birthdays.
You say you don't like to talk the politics and things, but dude, you are a veteran in the professional fishing game. Over 200 tournaments with FLW / MLF, and then I think, I don't have it pulled up here, but you went like 3 or 4 years and then took a break and then came back, and basically over the last decade competed on the either the FLW Tour or the MLF Pro Circuit. And I did not see your name on it for 2023 when they came out with that list.
I am not fishing over there. I am fishing the Bassmaster Opens. Looking forward to a change there. I've had a great run with FLW, a lot of history there. But as MLF has bought it and they've progressed in their business model the way that they feel directed to go, it just appears to me everything is directed 100% towards the BPT or the Toyota, and not so much emphasis on the Toyota, but 100% on the BPT. And for me and my business model, I just think my best effort was to go and take my brands and go to fish the Bass Opens. I've dabbled in and out of the Bass Opens, for a few years now, and I'm all in on 100%.
Is that scary after developing such a strong brand and career over at one to switch to the other? Or is it guys like me with a podcast and a show that make more of a bigger deal of it than it is? Like if you listen to Ish is like, it doesn't matter. It's a fishing, and I'll catch him at MLF. I'll catch him at Bass. I'll catch him on the West Coast. I'll catch him anywhere. Then you talk to some guys and they're like, yeah, I'm freaking terrified.
I'm not terrified by no means of it. It's still just a fishing tournament. My big thing was sponsor support. When I talked to all of my sponsors, everybody was 100% on board. They liked the change. They liked it. And they go, we know what you do. We know how you sell product, and we know how you promote. And it doesn't matter if you're promoting there or you're going to promote at Bass. It'll give us a fresh face at a new event. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. It's a little bit different going back with co-anglers, but I've not had many bad experiences, or any. Never had a bad experience at Bass with a co-angler. And when we did have co-anglers on the tour side, everybody has an issue from time to time, but for the most part, I get along with everybody good. So the co-angler thing doesn't scare me. The no net rule is going to be a little bit different, but I'm good with that as well. I'm going to boat flip most of them, so or hope to. So that part doesn't bother me either. So it's all good.
You have fished some opens. You fished the Southern Opens this past year.
Correct.
And then a couple in 2020 as well. So how much of a difference is it after not having fished with the co-anglers? How much of a difference is it in your opinion? Because I've only fished a couple days without co-anglers, which would be final day events or draws where I don't draw a co-angler now that the opens allow that, which I think is awesome with everybody having a GoPro now, basically. Do you think that's a big deal? Is that in everybody's mind?
Oh, I don't think it's that big a deal. I mean, some guys make a bigger deal out of it than they need to. If the truth be known, there's a whole lot of guys back when we had the tour and we had co-anglers that the guy in the front of the boat benefited from that co-angler. He'd be catching them doing something totally different than what the guy in the front of the boat was. And then it would change his mindset and he'd have a successful day because he changed and adapted to what the co-angler was doing. And I think, you can use it to your advantage. I like the 3 fish rule that they have on there. I'd like to see it be 3 fish with no calling, but I don't think that'll change.
First 3 keepers.
Well, if you put it in the box, if you put it in the box, you can't call it. So
at Hartwell, everyone would have 3 for 2.8.
Yeah, you could change your whole mindset on how you play the game. And the biggest thing on co-anglers back is depending on what type of water. If you're fishing open water is one thing, but if you're fishing, just say Hartwell, and you're fishing the bank, if you're fishing those little finger, drains and draws, it does change because the way you approach it, you can't go down one side and come back up the other and not worry about somebody casting across there. So it'll be what it'll be. It's still just another derby.
That's a great point. At Hartwell, I was very nervous about that on my first day draw. And I actually drew a buddy, Jonathan, who I'd fished with before, had roomed with us like at the previous tournament. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Because I was telling Holman, I was like, I need a guy to where I can say, hey, anything you cast on either side or in front is going to pull the school in one cast. So now I'm screwed. Now you're not going to catch them because they're just going to follow your stuff. And then I'm not going to catch them because you pulled them off of the cane and the brush. But I can't tell a guy that. Well, I draw Jonathan, and he goes, what are we going to do? And I said, do you want a shot to win this? I said, bring 2 spin-in rods with a drop shot. I said, and every time I hook one, just drop straight down. And he's like, you're serious? And I was like, that's the best case scenario for you, best case scenario for me. I said, you will have 3, you will have quality fish. I said, and it was such a dream draw because I literally could be like, hey, cane's up here, brush is up here, stay the heck away from it, because if I cast and bring it in, I'm bringing them to the boat. You can drop down. If you cast there, it totally messes it all up. But I think the co-angler is such an underutilized, I'm glad you brought that up. It's such an underutilized component of it. And I've actually gone out of my way this year to try to I guess, recruit or get co-anglers for each division that I feel comfortable with that can help me practice during that tournament. And that's something that Hallman has taken advantage of, and Upshaw, and a bunch of the guys that I travel with. And I look at it now as a potentially massive advantage that you can get by having the right co-angler with you, utilizing it, working with him, instead of just being like, hey, here's a dude in the back of my boat that might take some of my fish.
I did the same thing at Hartwell. I drew out a local guy at Kissimmee, and he said he lived on Hartwell. And I said, you want to practice? So, he did jump in the boat for a day. I got to practice with him and, get you familiar with what he's doing and what's going on locally on the lake. You get some ideals from him. And, like I said, we'd throw 2 different type baits. And, late in the last day of practice there, last full day, we got onto a little deal that I ended up catching them on a Carolina rig. And it worked all the way through the event.
Are you a Carolina rig guy?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It works. I could catch them on a swimmer. I could catch them on a drop shot, but the better quality all come off of that Carolina rig.
In the same areas that you would catch them on a drop shot, you'd throw a rig.
Most definitely. The guy that I can't think of his name, the Canadian guy.
Coop?
That qualified for the elites.
Coop, go on.
Yeah. I fished around him the whole time for both days.
Dragging a rig, and you had it. You had a good finish there. You're just out of the money. 42nd out of 200 boats.
Just missed a check there. So, yeah, all on a Carolina rig, every fish.
You have one tied on pretty much everywhere you go?
I use it for search bait a lot. Gunnersville this year on I caught every fish on that tournament except for day 3. I had to change up a little bit. The first 2 days I caught everything on a Carolina rig and made the cut there.
So why a rig and not a football head or a wobble head or something that you could actually like move a little bit faster? Or are you moving the rig fast?
I'm moving it pretty quick most time. I keep it moving. I just kind of wind it. And I just think it just triggers, for me anyway, I can trigger more bites with it than I can with the wobble head.
Are you a structure bug or a rage craw guy, or do you go with like an ocho or a straight tail, a bullworm or something on it? Typically. So you like the phalanges and something swimming that puts out a vibration.
Exactly. With a tungsten weight so you can feel what that bottom is the whole time.
3/4.
90% of the time.
All right, so you're kind of fishing it like a jig then.
Yeah.
You're not catfishing.
I'm not soaking it. It's moving.
Have you noticed that the younger guys don't touch that thing as much?
That's why I throw it. Everybody's gone away from it, so it's a fun. To me, it's a fun bait, and it's amazing how many fish you can catch. I mean, even when you go north, it's amazing how many of those smallmouth you can catch. Putting a baby rage bug on there, and or fluke style bait or caffeine shad. I mean, they will absolutely kill that thing.
All right, I got the schedule for the opens pulled up. So you fall Alabama, you'll have one tied on.
No doubt.
Wheeler in May, you'll have one tied on.
I'll have one tied on.
Harris Shaded October, you'll have one tied on.
Definitely find them shell beds.
April on Toledo Bend? Yeah, that might not be a...
Probably not.
You fall in June in Oklahoma, you'll have one tied on. September in Lake of the Ozarks, you'll have one tied on. Have you ever been to... No?
Probably not at Lake of the Ozarks. I love fishing Lake of the Ozarks, and I don't think I've ever thrown one at Lake of the Ozarks.
Really? You got a lot of experience there.
I like fall fishing at the Lake of the Ozarks. Fish quite a few Toyotas there, and then there's a Pro-Am they put on there, late October, 1st of November. It's a fishing golf experience over there.
You do that, dude. I've wanted to know about that so bad. What is the deal with that? It's like is it fins and skins?
Something like that. I can't remember what the Bass and Bob puts it on.
Yeah.
You got like 30 guys, and they bring the pros in. Amateurs pay $1,000 to fish it, and then the night before the tournament they have a banquet, and then they auction the pros off. So the pros will some of these pros will go for $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 to be able to get to fish with them. And then you fish for a day, you play golf for a day, and then you fish for a day. And, it pays like 7 spots or 8 spots on the deal. It's a fun event to fish. I didn't get to fish. Go ahead.
But doesn't like Justin McClellan jump in, Casey Scanlon, like some of the years, like Watson, like a bunch of the kind of bigger name Ozark area guys jump in.
Yeah, you got Jeremy Lawyers there. You got Marcus Sequoia's there. I mean,
Dion Hibden.
Yeah, it's a strong event. I mean, you got to be on your game there.
It's called the Missouri Invitational Fish and Golf Championship, I think.
Yeah,
I think they just had it.
They just had it the other day. Andy Newcomb, he's always in it there. I mean, they got some strong guys in there. And it's a strategy deal because you got to figure out your golf game. I'm not a good golfer, so you want to try to get paired up with an amateur that is a good golfer that can carry you through on the golf day. Because you can win the fishing side and get your brains absolutely beat out on the golf course.
Is it best ball?
Yeah, they play best ball.
Okay, yeah, so if you get a scratch golfer and then you're dialed in on Lake of the Ozarks, then like you sink a couple putts or maybe have a chip or two that's within tap-in range, and then I see how that goes. So you need a good golfer, and then you got to be on the fish.
Yeah, exactly.
18 holes and then 2 days of fishing?
2 days of fishing. It's a fun event.
Yeah. It's like fish and chips. Did you ever fish and chips?
I did not. two years we had it. It was so cold that we couldn't play golf because all the sprinkler heads froze on the golf course. I mean, it's like 12 degrees at takeoff.
So it was just the fishing part. It was just the fish part.
It was just fishing. I was all in on that one. I was like, yeah, let's go do this deal.
Huh. No, we did Jeffries did the same thing with fish and chips for like 5 or 6 years, where we did 2 days of fishing, and then you did a Texas Hold'em poker tournament, and then the fishing counted for 50%, and the poker, your score in the poker counted for 50%, and you got points. You know, if you got 50 points if you finished first in the fishing, if you finished first in the poker, you got 50 points, and then it went like half points all the way down there, and it was fun. I absolutely enjoyed the heck of it. But there are a couple guys that brought in professional poker players.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the thing here, because these amateurs, you know, if you're a good golfer, you know, you might put $5,000 up to draw Marcus Sequoia, which lives on the lake and is an absolute hammer, or the Hibdons. And then, you know, as long as you're catching the fish, then that guy can carry you on the golf side, and it'll pay $20,000 plus to win that thing.
MLF has tried. MLF has done some of these kind of one-off, kind of mixing things up, especially with some of their non-endemic sponsors. You see, like, hey, they get on the water with guys from other sports, but I wish there was more like an all-star weekend that wasn't just like the all-star tournament like Bass used to have or something, where you would have an interaction of PGA Tour pros and professional fishermen, or the NASCAR and professional fishermen, and it was kind of like a whole weekend event. You throw some casting competitions in there, like a short 4-hour tournament, some team stuff, some golf, like some of those. I think that would be a really, really cool and dynamic event to bring back.
Yeah, ain't no doubt that would be a fun deal to do. I can't say much about it. I'm working with Lucas on an event right now. We got a meeting next week on, so we might talk more on that. It'd be a pretty interesting deal.
You mentioned Lucas. We're going to take our first break of the show with Bill McDonald. When we come back, I do want to dive into that, because I said, hey, you're running the Lucas Wrap next year when we were getting the show together. And you brought up some interesting stuff that I was unaware of about Lucas Oil, especially the marine department, their involvement with professional bass fishing and amateur and team and regional stuff. So if you're good with it, we'll dive into that when we come back.
Sounds good, man.
All right, it is BTL on a Tuesday, December 6th, talking with Indiana's Bill. Okay, 50% of the time it says Bill, and 50% of the time it says Billy.
Those are the two nicest things that people call me, so either one works. It doesn't matter.
I do the same thing with Brad. It's Brad or Bradley when it comes to Hallman. I'm not sure which. So with Bill McDonald, BTL, we'll be back right after this.
Hey guys, Earl Swindle representing the AFCO Hydronaut. This is the jacket I love wearing when times is tough, and I'm talking about the weather, not the fishing. The jacket, what I like, I got a double cup right here. I can seal up the bottom of my jacket, because when you're fishing, you're holding your arms up, you're bad about getting water, it runs downhill. Everything bends good. I'm long arm. Look, it fits very comfortable. My arms is flexible. I've got the speed hood on, pouring down rain. I can get everything zipped up. One thing they did is they made plenty of pocket space. If you ain't got enough pockets in the Hydronaut rain suit, you just got too much stuff. From the water membrane, that's 30K, baby. 30 times the reason you ain't gonna get wet. Super warm. If it's cold in the wintertime, you put on your Hydronaut, you're gonna be a much more comfortable person. If you don't want to just look sexy at Dairy Queen, wear your Hydronaut. We got it from small to 5X. Most rain gear does not come in that many sizes. You got waist adjusting straps. We can make it fit you. No matter what the environment is, we want you to be comfortable. We want you to be dry. You gotta check it out. It ain't gonna let you down.
The KVD 100 jerkbait. 15 different colors. A perfect combination of roll, wiggle, and flash. Increased castability. 3D eyes. Premium black nickel hooks. KVD. Tie one on. Striking lures.
Your key to better fishing this season is Elite FS. Now available at a new lower price. Get Elite FS9 today for $9.99. And we'll throw in a CMAP reveal chart, our premium mapping solution, for free. Elite FS works with all state-of-the-art Lowrance sonar, from chirp, side scan, and down scan imaging with fish reveal to high-resolution active target live sonar. Elite FS9 and CMAP reveal. Offer ends August 31st.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? Well, the Bass Tank is here to help you. The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
Welcome back, BTL, on a Tuesday with Bill McDonald. And yes, I talk about the Carolina rig a lot on this show because I can count on one hand how many times I've caught a fish on it, Bill. But there's also a part of me that is terrified that I'm missing out on something that could be like the difference maker in some situations because I know everything is situational. It comes to my mind, I did not understand the power of the biffle head, and I am less than 2 hours from Fort Gibson, and Tommy Biffle is an icon here in Oklahoma. He has best color Sooner run designed for all of this stuff, and we watch him catch it, and for 2 years I was like, I don't get it. It's like reeling in a Texas. And then, boom, I understood it. The power hit, and I was like, holy cow, I've left a lot of fish on the table. Kind of in the same way with the Whopper Plopper right now. Like, I've got it, have not had the aha moment with the Plopper, so I'm trying to pick the brain of people who have had the aha moment, who have understand the Carolina rig to maybe try to figure out why I have this weird aversion to it. Does that make sense? Definitely.
Yeah. The Carolina rig to me is probably the best search bait there is. You know, we're all looking for those magic shell bars, that little bit of structure, and I can pull up on a drop and you can grab them, you can do whatever you want. But when you throw that rig up there with a tungsten weight on it, it doesn't take just a second to find out, hey, that's rough. There's shell right there. You know, you can catch fish, and it's amazing because you might fish 100 yards of a stretch and be, you know, muck or smooth. Then all of a sudden, you know, boom, it's hard, it's rough, and you get bit. And it's just so easy to identify with that bait for me and, you know, find those little sweet spots there. You know, that's the whole key in all of it, is finding that sweet spot, without a doubt.
Is that what you were throwing on St. Clair when you almost won?
No, that was 100% drop shot up there.
Oh, okay.
I wished I'd thrown it maybe, you know. Last show I heard you talking about missed fish, or a couple shows back that cost you.
Yeah.
I lost 3 fish that day, the final day, that no doubt cost me a bunch of money in that deal.
Did you do anything wrong, or did you do the exact same thing that had been a 95% hookup for the previous 30?
That I was new to spinning rods. I didn't own spinning rods back then, so that was a whole new game to me. The first 3 days of that tournament, it was dead slick calm, and I had no issues. And just replaying it in my mind, the only thing that went different was that final day was windy. I mean, I ain't going to say it was brutal, but it was, 2-3 footers, maybe a little more than that. And I just, I hooked those fish, and I just think the wave action put a whole lot more stress on those fish. If I had it to do over, I'd back the drag off. But then again, sometimes you just lose them. There ain't nothing you can do about it. Just don't go Ike when you lose one. That's my best thing to say.
You lost that one to the general, Larry Nixon, who's been making a little bit of waves recently over the last couple months with some announcements of him returning to the Elite Series. I guess if you're going to lose one, if you're going to finish second in an event, losing it to Larry's probably not that bad.
Now, the coolest thing about that event, Larry and I fished basically kind of side by side for 4 days. Larry had a stretch he was fishing, and I had another little stretch that I was fishing. And Larry and I we kind of had an imaginary line that neither one of us crossed for all 4 days. And we would pull up, kind of get close to each other, and we would talk each day. What do you got? What do you think I got? And go back and forwards. And it was just the respect I had for Larry, the respect he had for my water. It was just a very cool deal to be able to fish like that. And, we talked every morning. We helped each other put the boats in the mornings. We did the same thing in the evenings, and just, Larry's a class act guy. Nothing but respect for Larry.
Talking about the FLW tour, it was in late August in Michigan back in 2012, and you finished that. I just pulled it up since we started talking about it, and that was a ridiculous top 10. Like, back then, obviously, you also have to remember that not a lot of people knew who Corey Johnson was, like, across the nation.
Sure.
Chad Pipkins was somewhat established, but he was kind of coming off of being like a co-angler on the FLW tour and kind of a northern guy that just the guys up north really knew about. You also had Spencer Shuffield in fourth there, who obviously now he's won the title and he's on the BPT, but he was like Ron Shuffield's kid back in 2012.
Correct.
Joe Baylog, Lake Erie legend. John Cox, John Cox in 2012 was still pretty dominant, but I feel like he was on kind of like a year-to-year basis as to whether or not he was going to scrap up enough to be able to do the entry fees. Fair assessment a decade ago.
Very fair assessment.
You had Tim Wilson. Was Tim Wilson from up there? I'm not familiar with Tim Wilson.
Gassville, Indiana, northern Indiana. Yes.
Oh, Indiana guy. There you go.
Yeah, another guy.
You had Chris McCall, who's been a legend. He's been around for forever. And then Larry Nixon and you in second. That was a heck of a top 10.
We had Shin Fukai in there too.
Oh yeah, Shin Fukai in fifth.
It was funny because within sight, I could see Shin Fukai, Larry, myself, Sheffield, and McCall. We were all within sight of each other.
I'm assuming Corey and Joe probably went to Erie.
I know that Joe and I think Chad went to Erie. I'm not sure what Corey did on that one.
Oh, yeah, Chad's an Erie guy. And then did John Cox do largemouth?
No, they were all
back
smallmouth.
then. He was still smallmouth. He probably was throwing a spinnerbait or something, though.
I'm sure he was shallow. But that was the biggest school of fish by far that I've ever been on. It'd probably been scary if we'd had live scope back then to look and see how many fish were actually there.
Like thousands of just 3 to 5 pound smallmouth in one specific. Was it a grass deal or a rock vein or?
It was just a little grass, grass with sand spots in it. It was funny on day 2, I think it was. I pulled up and first cast I throw out there and I'm adjusting my unit, get it set like it was on a ram mount and get it set like I want it. I pick up, one's pulling, I holler for the net, and I'm biting this fish, and it's a big fish. It comes up and jumps, and I turn around, and my co-angler still got his back to me, trying to untangle his rod. So I got a little excited and started hollering for the net, a little bit more vocal. And he nets it, and it was a 512. And he goes, I go, it's bad luck to catch a fish, keep the first fish, catch one on the first cast. And he goes, you're throwing it back? I go, no, they just say it's bad luck. I turn around, I throw back out, and I caught a 5.8 on the next cast. And, by 9:30, 10 o'clock, I was done. It's like, we got to move because I had 25 something that day. So
your first 2 casts were a 512 and a 5.8 smallmouth.
Correct.
On a drop shot that you were not comfortable with spinning rod stuff yet.
Not at all. It was just, I'm like, this is weird. It's really weird. And
you throw it a bunch now?
Oh, I got a bunch of them now. And I caught like a 7 in practice. And it was funny because I called Steve Clapper. And I asked Clapper, I go, dude, if I'm catching, because I caught a 7 and a 5 on back-to-back deals, I said, I don't catch smallmouth. I don't know much about them. I said, is this a place I need to work on? He goes, first thing you need to do is get the heck out of there as fast as you can get out of there. But he said, yeah. He said, if you caught 2 giants like that, he said, there's a bunch of them there. And during the tournament, I never caught another fish in that spot, but went and kind of ran the same type of stuff and landed on a good wad there.
If you don't know who Steve Clapper is, he has over 35 top 10 finishes in BFLs out of St. Clair and Lake Erie. It doesn't matter where it's out of. The guy is a absolute legend.
He is the best by far on those 2 bodies of water, in my opinion.
He's still going, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got a bad back. He's moved now. He lives right up there by Sandusky. I stopped by the house and seen him there the last time we were up there when we had that big MLF event up there. But Steve's a fantastic guy, to say the least.
In 2016, the BFL Michigan division was St. Clair, Detroit River, Lake St. Clair, Detroit River, which is all the same.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends on how far you have to run to get there. His finishes that year, he won the Angler of the Year. His finishes that year were 7th, 6th, 8th, 7th, and 3rd.
Pretty strong.
This is the consistency level. Listen to his weights. 19, 2010, 1912, 19-1, 21-11.
Yeah, that's as strong as it gets for anybody up there.
Like, it must be nice to go out and know that you're going to catch 20 pounds. Because that's what he basically, that it's going to happen. Like, there's no way it doesn't. Unless you don't make it back to weigh-in.
Yeah,
if you just go off odds.
Steve can tell you, too. He can pull up and say, you're going to catch one on this rock right here. And, I mean, he's dialed in. There's no doubt about it. And I'm going to date myself. I don't know what year it was, but when FLW had a super tournament, I want to say like early 2000s, 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there, they had one on Erie. And I told a bunch of guys, I said, Clapper will win that deal. And they go, oh, locals never win. I said, well, just remember what I tell you. And he won that deal. It's when it paid $200,000. He won that event up there on Erie.
Wow. I did want to get into the sponsorship stuff. You have been notorious. I think is notorious the right word. I've been having issues with meanings of words lately. You've been synonymous. Synonymous, I think, is the word with the gray, the flat gray Lucas oil wrap, the black, the red. Like that's how I remember you and know you of. And that seems to be a partnership that you have had for a long time and will continue into 2023 for the Opens, correct?
Sure. Yeah, Lucas has been a great, great partner. And, to go back on that Lucas story, I knew the vice president of branding and marketing there. And he was with another company prior to that. We kept talking about trying to do something in the fishing industry. And we just never could come up with anything that really made sense. And then when he ended up going to work for Lucas, we were talking one day and I said, hey, let's start a marine line. You guys don't have one. You're known for oils and additives and the whole deal. Let's start a complete marine line. So we kicked it around a little bit. And he was in California, so I get a phone call one night about 1 o'clock in the morning. And he said, hey, we're adding one team this year, and it's you. We're going to start a marine team. So we started it and actually ran the products for probably a year and a half, 2 years before it ever came out on the market. Testing a lot of different stuff. And so we decided, we were going to jump all in on a deal. We talked to Forrest Lucas and, we had some good meetings on it. And I told him, I said, I assure you, we can make a big splash in this industry because nobody, produces that. Everybody's buying third party stuff, whether, any of the engine brand companies, they're all buying third party products. And I said, the thing with Lucas is, and Forrest Lucas is, he'll never put a product on the market that doesn't exceed what anything else is out there. So anything that he's got will exceed any expectations you've got out there. And then we tested everything in the racing world. So if it'll work in the racing, in those extreme conditions, it'll definitely work in the conditions that we have. So we started that deal, and we started going to, we did some stuff with the Texas Team Trail tournaments down there in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
We did the walleye tournaments. We did the redfish tournaments. We were sponsors on all those things, and we would show up with skids of product and just pass product out to people and start kind of building a demand for the product. And then we started working on distribution, and from there it's grown. We've done a lot of different things. We're in the saltwater with Big Water Adventures. We've got an outdoor line now that we do the hunting oils and greases, and it just continues to grow. And I mean, it's been a very, very good deal for Lucas, without a doubt.
Was it easier to kind of make that marketing transition to the fishing and the boating industry because of the long-standing sponsorship they'd had with drag racing and motorsports, and there's kind of a parallel between those two, do you think? Like they understood like the wrap and the logos and that type of stuff?
Yeah, I think so. And it's kind of a funny story. I sat with Forrest Lucas and I said, hey, I'm going to try to get you an OEM with Ranger boats. And he goes, kid, it'll never happen. We've tried this OEM stuff. It just don't work. And so I had some meetings with Randy Hopper and them down there. And we kept, they was having some hub issues, where all the sealed hubs were all turning white. People were complaining about it. And I told Randy, I said, I can fix all your problems. So I sent him a skid of product down there. And he called me back in about 2 weeks. He goes, hey, we need to talk some more. So we started talking about it then on what we could do to do a factory fill with them. And actually, we jumped on a plane and we flew down there with Forrest Lucas. And, Forrest Wood was there. It's kind of cool. Forrest Wood and Forrest Lucas sitting across the table from each other. And they talked more about cattle than they did anything. But then from there, we got the OEM with them to do the time it was Triton, Ranger and Stratus as a factory fill. And then since then, we've got Bass Cat as a factory fill. We've got Vexus as a factory fill. We've got some stuff going with the Camus people, and it's just continuing to grow. So,
do you know how many marine products Lucas Oil has now? I'm looking at it now, and it just keeps going and going. Because obviously you have the oil stuff, but whenever you pick up the Bass Cat, you open up one of the rod boxes, and it's got a little 3-pack of Lucas Oil in there. It's got like the tire shine, the slick mist, and now I'm hooked on that stuff. Don't step on the bump rub rail after you do it though. You'll just go shoop, you'll slide right in.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the slick mist products have been really, really good. We got lower unit fluid. We actually, all the Sea Star fluid in those boats are all factory filled with Lucas. We made a special fluid for them. And, we've got brake fluids in there. We got lower unit fluids, 2-stroke, 4-stroke, and everything is, MNAA, approved. So, it meets all the requirements and it does not void any of your warranties at all.
Have you found that the fishing industry is pretty good about taking care of the companies that invest in the industry? Like, you talked about sponsoring the Triple T, and there's a lot of stuff out on the West Coast in regional trails and things like that. Have you found then that those people are way more likely to go, and even if it's a few bucks more, they have to drive to a different AutoZone place or something to find it, they'll stick with Lucas because of the kind of loyalty that they've shown to the marine industry?
Oh, without a doubt, it works that way. Just with Bass Cat, when we approached Rick Pierce, Rick was like, you guys are supporting the industry. I'm going to support you too. So, everything that Bass Cat uses is Lucas. And even if you look at the tires on your trailer, they're all General tires. General's not the cheapest tire out there. Rick could buy a cheaper tire, but he's buying really the best tire you can put on a trailer, which is the Generals. And, they're in the industry, so he's helping to support that industry all the way through. And then same thing with the anglers, years ago when Chevrolet had their heavy involvement into bass fishing, you could pull into a parking lot and they probably had an 85%, market share on all the tow vehicles. The year that Chevrolet decided that fishing wasn't a viable source for them, all of a sudden, that market share dropped to probably 50% in that deal. And that's about the time Toyota was coming on. And, I've had Toyota since 2007, been involved with them, and it was, the market share that they've got a hold of now is huge.
Yeah, Dynamic's done such a good job with them in the industry.
Phenomenal.
It's absolutely impressive how you could associate Toyota trucks with professional bass fishing. And it's just they've done such a good job on it. It's been seamless.
Yeah, and I mean, any Bass Pro Shop you go to, I mean, they're tied in with them. When they used to have all the activations where you could go drive the trucks, there's no other manufacturer out there that pays you to go fishing like Toyota does through Dynamic.
And I also feel like if Toyota's not getting a return on their investment, they're not going to stick around for this long. Like, they don't have a vested interest in professional bass fishing. They're doing whatever makes money and sells trucks for them.
Sure.
I mean, if it was the New York Ballet Company that sold them more trucks, they'd be all over the New York Ballet Company.
Exactly. But you walk through the parking lots, and early on when I first signed on with Toyota in 07, you'd walk through the parking lot, and it was funny, okay, we got 3 at this, event. And then, later in the year, we got 7 now. And then as the bonus bucks program come out, then all of a sudden you started seeing tons and tons of those vehicles. And it's done nothing but continue to grow in it. As part of your marketing dollars, you put them to work for you, and it works out.
Are you big? Are you signed up for all of the incentive programs and all that? Because I think that's where I'm missing it. Fishing at that opens level is I just haven't taken the time to go through and sign up. Do you do all of like dunk and have all your incentives dialed in?
I try to. I haven't on the opens yet. I need to go through and look at the list once I get everything completely finalized. But, if you get a $250 check here and there, you get a $2,000 or $2,500 check from Toyota. I mean, all those things add up, and the different sponsor incentives as well. I don't know why more companies don't take advantage of the contingency programs. I know it's something they have to track and maintain. But I do believe that, it sells product without a doubt.
There needs to be, I wish Bass had a deal like, hey, here are all the current sponsors that offer incentives for the Bassmaster Opens. Like, I mean, you go through the list when you register and they've got, whether it's St. Croix there or whatever. But like, I would honestly, right now where I am, I would wear whatever sunglasses paid me the most to wear it for the incentive program on stage, because I don't have a sponsor or anything for that, but I'm not sure which one it is. Is it Costa? Which one is it? I wish you could go to that site, say, here's the 30 incentives that qualify for the Bassmaster Opens, and then the guys could go on there, pick and choose, and make sure they're dialed in for the maximum amount.
Let's beat on Hank and see if we can't get him to put that up on there.
Or a website or something. I don't see why there would be any downside for the Opens to do that.
For them, I think it would be positive because that give those sponsors more, hits on their sites to be able to do it. And I think it'd be, great for Bass and be great for their partners as well to be able to incentivize that.
Have you heard of this thing called, like, we're way off in left field here, but now we're trying to figure out how to make more money in these Opens that they haven't come out with the payouts for yet, Hank. Have you heard of this thing called side pot fishing?
I have.
I'm kind of intrigued by it. I was a little hesitant this past year, but then I've called up some dudes that'd been like, oh, the so-and-so earned the money. So I shot him a message. They're like, yeah, I got a check for it. I paid $200 for the event. What are your thoughts on that?
The same deal. I never knew how good it pays out, for sure. There's been some of those things in the past where some money's disappeared and whatnot. Yep. So, if it's legit, it's 100% up front. Hey, it costs you a couple $100. West Coast does a lot of those side pot deals, and the Bass Open does some, or not the Bass Open, but the One Bass out there. I think they do some side pot deals. Yep. And anytime you can put a little extra money in and make some extra money, hey, I'm all about it.
So in theory, the way I understand it is like for the Opens, you pay like $200, you sign up for it. It's a one-off deal. And then everyone else who is in that side pot, it's literally just a side pot. They're an organization that holds the money for the side pot. You register for it. So now you're in for $2,000 instead of $1,800. And then if like 20 of those guys sign up for it, then the top finishing guy out of those 20 gets paid. And second, Because in the local tournaments, the side pot guys, like the side pot pays more than the friggin' derby around here in Oklahoma, and it's cash.
Yeah, we used to always, big bass was always one of them deals you had to pay separate. And, around here, and then there was always second, optional big bass things that you could pay into. And it's like, guys go, I ain't going to pay that money. I don't know. I said, you ain't going to pay $5 or $10 for one cast? I'll pay it every day.
Yeah, I did that one time a couple years ago. I finished second in a tournament, and there were 25 boats in it, and it was a $20 big bass deal. And I was like, cool, I got second. And they're like, and there was one person who didn't pay into big bass. And it was the guy who finished first. And I had the second biggest bass. I got the big bass pot. Paid more than the tournament.
Send me the money.
Yeah. Are you concerned at all about going to the Opens, Bill, where you're paying $1,800 and you're fishing for $3,000 back, and you're not fishing for $100K every event, and the top 10 doesn't pay $20,000 down to it? I mean, it's a big change from going out and knowing that you're fishing for six figures every day.
Well, when I seen the payout that MLF posted, I'm okay going with what we're going with. I mean, it's an $80,000 payout is what it really is over there, unless you're running, the Phoenix boat. So it's not $100,000, it's 80. And then at 30,000 or at 30th place, 31st is $8,000, not $10,000. So I've got a $5,000 entry fee. I've got another $1,500 to $2,000 on expenses. So if I'm going to fish for $1,000 over there, or do you go fish the Opens? I'd be lying and I think anybody'd be lying if they said they didn't have a dream to fish the Bassmaster Classic, without a doubt. So with 9 opportunities to fish the Classic, 9 opportunities to fish the Elites, I've been a member of Bass since 1984. So it's like, hey, I'm gonna go give it a whirl. I'm gonna put all my efforts, 100% effort into it, and go for it. The money is one thing, but I look at it this way: I'm going to fish the whole season for what I was going to spend on just entry fees at the MLF. And the way they've got it set this year, where everybody can cherry pick, because the list they put out on the roster this week, it's just for Okeechobee. That list will change from event to an event.
You think it'll change quite a bit?
I think so. 10 or 15, 20 people probably, or more. It'll change per event. And
that's not good, because then the ones that it changes to are the ones who think that they can slide in and freaking top 10 that event, which means there's a lot of guys that are going to cherry pick them, that are going to take checks. And if you're only paying the 10 grand down to the top 30, you've got a lot of cherry pick. I see where now it gets a little bit tougher.
So that's where my decision, and I mean, we're in the same boat. The guys that's just going to come in, and there will be guys that'll jackpot their home lakes, in the Opens. But the thing on the Opens, that with the 30-day off limits, that's going to cut that down quite a bit, I think.
Mm-hmm. And plus, if you cherry pick that, it doesn't go, your points count, but it doesn't count to the overall. Like, there's not someone out of those that's going to take your spot. It's just.
Sure. And if a guy fishes Division 1, he fishes all 3 of them, he's not affecting the points that you and I are after. No way, shape, nor form.
You think we're going to see a lot of pro circuit guys that are fishing all 9 Opens when that list finally comes out, Bill?
I think you're going to be shocked at some of the names you're going to see. I know of 2 or 3 ex-Cup champions that will be there.
Ugh. It's fun.
You got Bobby Lane. He's not a Cup champion.
He's won the World Championship and the Red Crest
champion that's coming over there.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's going to be, it's going to be the toughest field in bass fishing, bar none. It'll be the strongest field that there's probably ever been in bass fishing.
And then the top 9. So let's say there's 180 that end up doing it. Let's just do. You're about 1 in 50, about 1 in 18, 1 in 17, 1 in 18.
Sure.
You going out to try to win? What's your strategy? I'm curious. Are you a points guy? Or are you just catch whatever the hell you can and see where it shakes out type of guy?
I basically have always been catch what you can catch and let it shake out. 2012, I did the points when we fished the FLW series and finished fourth in that deal. I just believe you go catch everything that you can catch, at least the first half of the season, and see where you stand at. Because I think if you start out the beginning trying to fish just conservative and play point games, it'll bite you. So I think you got to go make hay when the sun shines. Some of those ladder tournaments, we got some September tournaments where the fishing's not as good as it is in other times of the year. So I think you got to go catch what you can catch at the beginning. If you can get a points lead or, a high end of points, then you start maybe strategizing to be a little bit more point fisherman.
I got you. I can't close out an interview on BTL with a guy who hunts in December without asking him if you dropped anything big this year.
I did not. Greg Bohannon and I, we've got a lease in Wisconsin, and I'm just a trophy hunter. I have no qualms about it. I'm just hunting a big deer. Mm-hmm. I missed an absolute giant early in October, and I fished for basically that one deer or one other deer that was on the property and never got another opportunity. And I call it a successful season. I had a good time, and, I got an opportunity to shoot at one of those giant deer. And so it was all good and no complaints there. Now it's time, like I said, to refocus my energy, start fishing again. And going back to guys coming over, there are some strong brands coming over to the opens that'll be new to the bass side that FLW's always had or MLF's always had.
What could bass do on the open side that would help you and your brand as Bill McDonald Fishing as far as publicity, coverage? What would be beneficial to you and your sponsors that bass could do? Because they really haven't announced what the heck they're going to do. They just said enhance coverage, whatever that means.
Enhance coverage. And that's the whole thing, coverage. I mean, as far as Lucas as a brand, that's what they're looking for is that coverage that you get. If you go back and watch a BPT show, our branding is on the official. So every fish that's weighed, we're getting visualization off of that. So, I mean, that's the whole key is the visualization and, the impressions that you get as it goes on. So, I mean, that's key. And like I said, it's going to be exciting. Once we see that list, once they finally publish it, it's going to be exciting to see who all is coming. I mean,
I know, but what do you want to see in the enhanced coverage that would excite you to be like, dude, this is going to help me as a professional angler who's putting my dollars and my brand behind bass now? Like live coverage or photo galleries, articles. What do you want?
Both. I like to see photo galleries without a doubt that, not just the key guys, but, for a lot of the guys, the article side of it, we've lost all of that over there. That's another reason, some of the guys are coming over. There's no more interviews. There's no more anything. Live coverage is a big deal. I'm excited to see Fox live on Saturdays or the final day. So we got to work our butts off to make sure we're there on that final day to get that live coverage. But the interviews and that whole deal it'll be huge. What Bass says they're going to do. Let's see what they do here.
I would like to see a small segment of the Elite Series coverage not be dedicated, but talk about the Opens race. Who's at the top of it, maybe show a little clip during their live coverage instead of replaying a catch 9 million times. Do a little 5-10 minute deal each day that highlights what's going on at the Opens. I think it benefits the Open sponsors, it benefits the Open anglers, and it gives the viewers an option if they want to dive deeper into it. I have on the PGA Tour, a guy makes a putt to stay on, and then you end up down this rabbit hole of amateur golfers and their stories and learn their stories and things. I would like to see a little bit of the Elite Series live bleed over into the Opens instead of, hey, here's 9 random guys that we haven't talked about all year that are now on the Elite Series. I think that would be beneficial.
I'd like to see them too on the EQ side. If they do an EQ side or, a dedicated page to that is, I know Ronnie Moore can't do interviews with everybody, but maybe you do a 5-minute interview or you have a guy send in a 5-minute interview where that people can go look and see and, have all your stats, or, some of us won't have any stats coming over to Bass now, but yet we can list our sponsors and what we do. And, just like a slight bio or whatnot, or why we came to the opens. I think there's people out there want to know those things. So, at least,
and they have done a great job. I don't know who was at, there's a dude who was interviewing at Hartwell, and he did a heck of a job. He did a bunch of above and beyond written articles. He interviewed like 10 or 15 guys a day, because at one point I was like, they're like, why are you interviewing me? I'm like, I'm not in the top 3. And he's like, no, I'm doing some other stuff on the side. Did a really good job. So I don't even know what his name was. I wish I.
That's cool. And I mean, you do a great job there, bringing guys on and letting us, share what we're doing or what we're thinking and go from there.
Yeah. Well, it's a weird deal, man. Like, if you've dedicated your life to catching little green fish, like I always say you don't get the opportunity to be around people who are living their dream very often. Like, I feel like you're around people, it's just the monotony in the day to day. But like, dude, you're excited right now. You've been doing this for over 2 decades, had a career before this. And I mean, I can already tell just in your voice, like you are excited and ready to go to work in March on Lake Eufaula in Alabama. And I think that's rare in today's, where it's just boom, 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 beat, to be around people who are excited, living their dream and chasing something that's their passion.
Yeah. I mean, it's an exciting time to go. And, the way they got the tournament set up this year too, we got 4 days of practice, or 4.5 days of practice. So you don't have to go pre-fish. We were hand tied, before over there if you're just going to compete, you had to basically go pre-fish, with the shorter practice periods that we had. Now with this, I mean, I wish they'd do away with Wednesday's practice completely and just give us a day off, that you can do what you need to do. If you need to do a podcast, you can do a podcast. A guy wants to go play golf, he can go play golf. Or if you just want to sleep in and get your tackle ready and not have the pressure of, man, do I need to go out there for another 4 hours?
Being obligated because someone is out there.
Because you feel guilty, my wife gets on me some days when the weather's crappy and, you're out there still from daylight to dark. And she goes, won't you come in? I said, I can't. I feel guilty that I'm not giving it my all, that if I do cut my day short. So
when I covered the Elite Series, I roomed with Rojas a lot. I learned a lot of stuff from him. And one of the things was sometimes it'd be daylight to dark. I was just covering the event, writing the top 10 pieces, shooting photos on the water stuff for Bass Zone. But during practice sometimes, and he's pretty dang consistent angler, Bill.
Yep.
He would be in at noon sometimes on a Tuesday. Other times it'd be half an hour past dark and he'd come rolling in. And I asked him about that one time. I said, what is that? You hear Ike going, you got to be first to the ramp and last to leave. And he said, I've learned over the years that the minute I feel like I'm being unproductive on the water during practice, he goes, at that moment, I am now hurting myself more than I am helping myself. He said, so I just get off the water, because all I'm going to do is get frustrated. My confidence is going to drop, and I'm going to fish through areas ineffectively. He goes, I would rather get off the water and approach it fresh and have less time feeling productive than force myself to stay out and feel unproductive. And I was like, dude, that makes so much sense. And that's how I've kind of treated it since then.
I mean, it makes sense without a doubt. That's where you shift gears, I think. Maybe you put it on a trailer and go the opposite end of the lake.
Yeah.
You drive 30 minutes, 45 minutes, clear your head. Then, I want to go look at something totally, totally different. There's just so many different aspects of this, and the discipline side of the game, I think it's something that a lot of guys miss, because you don't have a coach. You don't have your mom and dad kicking you in the butt, telling you got to go do this. I mean, you got to be disciplined enough to fish hard during the day, eat right or fairly right, and then be able to get some sleep at night and get up to go do it again. So the discipline side of it too, I think, something that some people just overlook completely.
And it's also cool how you could have, I mean, dude, here I am. I'm like kind of in my mid 30s. I just interviewed Tristan McCormick, and he's like, boy, this young generation that's coming up, they sure are good. And I was like, Tristan, you're 23 years old. And he's like, yeah. So you've got guys that are like 18 or 19 that have it. You've got guys that are in the middle. Then you've got veterans that have been doing it for 20 years. And you can make a case for all 3 of those. I mean, dude, you've got a 50-year gap between, all with the same goal. And you can make a case for why all the veterans from the invitationals and pro circuit are going to kick everyone's butt, and why all the 19-year-olds who are electronic savvy and have never felt an ache or pain in their life are going to kick everyone's butt, and then everywhere in between. That's what makes it cool, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. I'm 62, so, I've got some age on me. Nixon's 72. So, it's just interesting that there's no limitations on that. That's what's cool about it. We can go out there, you can have fun, and you can put a Tristan McCormick in your boat or, beside your boat and fish against him, which is fun and it's cool. And you can learn. That's the other thing, being open-minded and being able to learn from some of these kids. It's like I said, the electronics game was not my forte when I started into this. Being from Indiana, it was, if you were 5 or 6 eyes deep on your rod, you were starting to get too deep. You just take off and go. But going back to that, sticking your rod down, that's the key in Florida. I mean, especially with all the spraying that's been going on, the electronics, will help you some, but that rod tip is the biggest key to fish in the state of Florida that there is, without a doubt.
Hard bottom, right?
Hard bottom, hard bottom, hard bottom. And with them spraying, you can go to areas, I fished Florida for years, but you can go to areas that's been notoriously great spawning areas that now are just trashed. They've sprayed so much, it's nothing but muck, and them fish will not spawn there, period. So you got to go and you've got to find those hard bottoms, those hard places, which Miles Berghoff and I, the last time at Okeechobee, we fished within 100 yards probably of each other for 4 days there. And both of those areas, we found those, or I found mine anyway, using a rod tip. And you went 300 yards either way, and the water turned to muck again.
See, that's something that, like, if you're 19 and just coming, you don't know that. You got to be out there. You got to stick your rod in the water, feel the bottom, and you got to go 2 derbies and wonder why you zeroed and didn't get a bite and beautiful stuff, and the guy 100 yards over had 25 pounds. That's the only way to learn that, isn't it, Bill?
Yeah. And when we were kids, my dad used to take us to Kissimmee all the time, and we waited. We had a 14-foot fiberglass boat with a 20-horse Mercury. We didn't have a trolling motor. And we had a buddy that was a guide down there, and he would tell us areas to go to. So we would go out and tie the boat up, and we would jump out and wade, and the water would fluctuate maybe 3 to 6 inches while you were waiting. And then all of a sudden, you were in muck, and then all of a sudden you get to a real hard bottom and you start catching the crap out of them.
Wait, wading, like walking through Florida swamp in gator-infested water to find hard bottom.
Yeah, out in the middle, it's all offshore, but yes. You'd see alligators. Alligators really didn't bother you. You didn't want to go wait around the trailer parks where people fed them and whatnot, but they wouldn't bother you, or we never had an issue.
I got you. Anything else you want to get in here? I've kept you for almost an hour and 20 minutes. I've enjoyed the heck out of it.
No, that's it, man. I've had a great time.
All right. Well, I will see you in April? March or April? Where's it? It's March, isn't it?
March. First week of March.
I'm really kind of glad that we didn't start in Florida in January or February, because I feel like that just throws everything back and you immediately start stressing out over, oh my gosh, it's only a month. This at least allows you to enjoy Christmas without an ulcer, at least for me.
See, I wish they would start a little earlier in February. I think there's something to having that first major event, which I feel like this is going to be a major event in the media world when it starts, is everybody's hungry for it. And I think you can, jump the boat a little bit and get up on everybody else on media coverage if you've got that first event.
It's fair point. Fair point, Bill.
So now we're looking forward. Like I said, they'll be there quick, and then we'll go to the Classic, work it, and hopefully see you there at the Classic.
Oh yeah, I'll see it. When do you pick up the new cat?
I picked mine up. I fished out of it at Hartwell. I finished it on Wednesday and took it to Hartwell and started fishing on Friday.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I saw you at the media event. You had it. So is it all rigged out and back and good to go?
It's complete. I broke it in there. It was complete. When I left there, the media event was good. And then, like I said, I'll pick it up this afternoon with the complete wrap on there. So I'm ready to go.
How many grafts are you going with?
4. I don't ever run more than 4.
2 on the console, 2 on the bow.
Correct. One's dedicated to live scope. The rest of it, just you go fishing.
All right. Good stuff. All right, Bill. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. If people want to follow you on the social medias, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, any of that stuff?
Yep. BMAC Fishing on Instagram and on TikTok. And then...
Oh, you're on TikTok. I've never even been on TikTok, Bill.
Oh, yeah. Bill McDonald Pro Angler on Facebook.
Okay. Good stuff. All right. Have a good morning. I appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it, Matt. Look forward to hanging out with you, bud.
All right. See you. All right. That was Indiana's Bill McDonald. Like I said, he's been around forever. He's always been around. I've been at a couple media events with him, but kind of got to know him at the Northern Michigan Strike King Writers Conference and media event that we had up there, where I caught it was nasty weather. It was like awesome, and then it got nasty. And one of the dudes who does the Kings of Bass is like a big time trout and salmon guy up there, and he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go see if there's any salmon that came up this river from Huron. Does anybody want to go?" And I was like, I didn't really know these guys, so they like kind of went, and then like 20 minutes later, I'm like, man, it's like pouring down rain. I want to go catch a salmon. So I jumped in the truck and went down there, and ended up catching that one on a jerkbait. It was crazy. There were just like thousands of these king salmon, or Chinooks that they call them there. I mean, they were red. They weren't great eating then, but it's so cool up north. And anyway, so that's where I got to know Bill, and then he gave me like a pump thing for my jack plate that he just happened to have on hand, and then that's how I realized he was mechanically inclined, which I am not. So really good to catch up with him. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, wrap things up here on BTL on a Tuesday. We will be back right after this. Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronics setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com.
Combining one of the most popular hook styles with Gamakatsu's beefier Superline offering, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend delivers the strength necessary to target big fish in heavy cover. Well suited for braided line and heavier fluorocarbon, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend is built using stronger Superline wire that allows anglers to easily fish a finesse worm around heavy cover. The round bend offers a larger bite area, perfect for any worm presentation, while increasing your hookup ratios. The newly enhanced Z-bend holds your plastics on the hook longer, reducing the number of pull-offs and reducing damage to plastics. Available in 2/0, 3/0, 4/0, and 5/0, this is the most durable worm hook, designed for heavier lines that hold your bait on longer.
Preparation is key to success. And that preparation starts well before you ever hit the water. You're only as strong as your connection to the fish, and your line is that critical connection. Confidence in your line every minute of every day on the water is a necessity, and failure, it's not an option. Sunline makes the fluorocarbon, nylon, and braided lines to give you the strength to guarantee your confidence.
Vibrating jigs are a great choice for any time of year, and the Kamikaze Swim-On is a perfect match for any vibrating jig. 2 sizes and the unique tail design gives it a bait fish profile and a great swimming action for realism. There are 17 colors. See them all at bigbitebaits.com. The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD. The new Android series is the peak of the Denali lineup and offers the ultimate Denali experience. The Android series features 36-ton multi-directional graphite combined with interlock blank technology for added strength. Each rod is outfitted with Royal titanium guides that will not fail. The blank is fitted into an easy-touch, soft-feel EVA foam grip with exposed blank reel seat. This all allows the Android to transmit every movement of your bait and even the most subtle bites. The Android series is the finest rod Denali has ever made and offers an angler the ultimate fishing experience with a limited lifetime warranty. See the full lineup of Android rods at denalirods.com.
All right, welcome back, BTL on a Tuesday. Big shout out to Bill McDonald from Indiana. And one of the things I like to do during the show is get to know guys that I don't know very well. And Bill's one of those guys who's been around for a long. People know a lot of the same people, but I just haven't really gotten to know him. So I enjoyed the heck out of that. Everything he said, I pretty much learned right along with you guys. So, cool show. Learned a lot about that, especially with Lucas Oil. Man, you look at it, and they're so prevalent in the marine industry now. Kind of cool to get back and see kind of how the genesis of how all that started and got into the marine industry. Tomorrow, interesting show tomorrow. Going to have a couple of call-in guests, and then also going to open up the Sunline hotline. Still working on a guest. May have one, but primarily Sunline hotline. So if you have any questions, I'd be interested in people's take on 2022, their highs for the season, their lows for the season, any trends that they notice, any questions, anything that they thought about, feel free to call in. The Sunline hotline will be open. May or may not have Brad Hallman in studio. I'd like to get Brad in studio. We'll see if Brad, because he drops his kids off at school like a couple blocks away, so he's typically available for that. And then we just have a couple more weeks before we get ready for Christmas. I am still waiting. I don't know if it's updated or yet. I'm going to check on BassZone.com right now. Shop BTL at the top. Apparel store. Nope, not up yet. We still have the hoodies in there, but I was checking to see if the day 4. Every time I check, the day 4 and the Christmas merch drop for BTL should be available. In the meantime, if you would like, the sweatshirt that I was wearing yesterday, the BTL limited edition ugly sweater, that's only $28.95. T-shirts, $19.95. If you order more than $50, you get a free Legacy dashboard trucker cap. This is kind of a low profile mesh back hat with a BTL logo patch on it. We do have some beanies up there, some cuffed knit beanies for $16.95. And then that's about as low as I could go on the hooded sweatshirts. Those things are ridiculously expensive now, but $44 for the BTL performance hoodie, and the badge hoodie. We'll have one more new hoodie when that all comes out. But if you're looking for Christmas gifts, if you're looking for stuff to give as gifts, or want to put it in someone's ear to receive as gifts, there's all those items are on sale right now on the BTL store, and they're printed. You don't have to wait for them. As soon as you order it, it's sent to it. I actually ordered that ugly sweater, and it came like 3-4 days later, so it's all good. But I think I can show it. I share screen on everything. There it is, right there. You just go to from the BTL site. Here. You just go to the Shop BTL at the top. Click on that, and there you go. So that's what we got available right now. All right. Big shout out to Bill McDonald. Enjoyed the heck out of that interview. Tomorrow, Sunline Hotline show. A couple special guest callers. That's all we got on a Tuesday. We'll see everyone on a Wednesday. Later.